Zelfie here, and today I wanted to do a review of Obsidian Flames. Now, I'm going to be upfront. I don't think that this is a very good set for the average competitive player. Typically, when people are looking at these sets and evaluating things, they're looking for things that haven't been done before, or things that have an incredible niche. And so far, just from my perspective of the set, there really hasn't been anything that we can't do already or that like really stands out. I'm still gonna go ahead and review everything, but I just wanted to give a warning in advance. So we got Blossom here, powerful dance. Seems like a funny attack because 90 coin flips. I'm sure someone will make this a funny deck. That's about as far as it'll go. We have a new Trevenant with the Forest Spirit attack, as well as the active spot. Put 1 damage counter on each of your opponent's Pokemon during checkup. And then you can lock your opponent from retreating for 3 colorless energy. So you can technically run this Zora box with Scramble or Reversal Energy, because with Reversal Energy you'll be able to fill that attack condition, keep them locked up, and then put 1 damage at least on everything. And if you don't get knocked out, that's a solid 20 damage. I could see this maybe being playable in GLC. I know there's a deck that like really appreciates having damage on the opponent already, between like Zelfie, Trevenant, and what's his name, Decidueye, that can do 80 damage snipe on something that already has damage on it. So this might be playable there, but in standard, 1 damage counter is way too little, especially for something that just isn't going to be doing much else. If this could also like deny a prize, maybe it'd be okay, but it just doesn't seem like this is the time and place for it. We have a new Decidueye EX with the Total Freedom. So basically, if this is on your bench, you can move it to the active. But if it's already in the active, then you can switch it. So it's a once per turn like switch with Decidueye. And the other attack is not that bad either, because for a Grass of the Colorless, you do 130 and 30 snipe to something else. So it's very cheap, and you're a huge dude too. It's gonna be very hard to knock this out. That said, you don't really do too much else with that. You're unfortunately too low damage to 2 KO other EXs, at least the other big EXs, right? And then your like 3 damage snipe just isn't that relevant. I feel like the numbers don't totally align with this card. Even if the ability is really cool and the attack is efficient, it's just not good enough in this current metagame to really see a lot of play. You can evolve your opponent, but this has to be like set up in a really finicky way, because you want to be able to go first, and then you have to hit rare candy into this, and then only the defending Pokemon can evolve. This is probably just bad. This might be a GLC card, but that's about all the credit I'm gonna give it. Heal damage for 1 bench Pokemon. We have an effect like this already. I believe it's on a Blissey. Like maybe you evolve and you heal it, or it's just like an attack that heals. But this is something entirely new. We have this Toadscroll EX, which allows you to protect any of your Pokemon that have energy onto them. And then the other attack for 2 grass says you do 8 damage and then 40 more for each of your other bench Pokemon with grass energy attached. So just presuming you have a full bench, there's no Collapse or Glamora EX or anything, you do 280, which is, to be fair, like pretty good damage. But ultimately, that's gonna require you to have 7 total energy in play, and especially because attaching to EX Toadstool is gonna be a little bit difficult. You can't cherub onto this, for example, without cherubing beforehand. So trying to find a place where you'll actually be able to attach everything and even get that amount of energy is gonna be really tough. We do have a new trainer that helps us supplement this. I believe it's like if a Pokemon was knocked out during the last turn, you may search your deck for 3 basic energy cards, and that can be helpful here, but this is going to require a lot of setup. Other people have also mentioned using this as a possible tech card against Sableye, but I think Espeon is just greater in that regard, because typically those decks don't have a great way of actually KOing the Espeon VMAX. They might be playing a Drapion, and if they do, I don't know. it can just suck. But here, like if you're putting down a Toadstool, Sableye can knock it out pretty easily, Rare Critters can knock it out easily, and they can even just boss and hit with Cramp, or you have to sacrifice it with Escape Rope. So there's a lot of there's a lot of like vulnerability in the Toadstool that makes it not as great as the Espeon VMAX. Now in the future, if we still need a tech effect like this, and Espeon VMAX rotates out of the format, like sometime later this year or next year, this card could see a resurgence, but I currently think that Espeon VMAX is probably a safer bet at the moment, just because the bulky V is going to be way more durable, and actually knocking out Espeon VMAX is pretty tough. We have a Scaville that acts as two different types, with the grass and the fire type. So you can use it in Zoroark to cover 2 slots, but ultimately you're only going to be able to do 220 damage hitting for weakness, so it doesn't seem that great. You can also use this and possibly Sylveon VMAX, because this fulfills 2 type conditions at once, similar to like Hoopa V, which is Psychic and Dark. But honestly, Sylveon VMAX is not on the radar, and putting like something that literally does nothing onto your bench does not seem like a smart idea. We have the Ninetales, you can put 9 damage counters on something, and then it can attack. Seems pretty whatever. But the Sentei I'm actually kind of a huge fan of, not for Standard. In Standard, this card's really bad. But in GLC, you can attach a Cape of Toughness or a Branding Charm onto this. On top of its ability, it'll have an effective 150 HP, or 200 HP. And then if you're just fulfilling the basic cost of your attack, you're at minimum doing 120 damage. You can scale up the board. And looking at previous Entei's, because this is a card that I feel like kind of like blows in most Fire decks, and Fire decks sort of need something going on right now. There's not really great options here. The most that we've seen is the Rally Back Entei being played for its 2 energy, 120 damage attack. But the fact that this can be 200 HP and then have a scaling attack, especially when you get Pokemon Go Charizard online. So for 2 energies, you'll be able to do 140, which is pretty good, and you can scale that even higher, of course. So GLC, good card. In Standard, not so much. With the Victini EX here, it sort of just doesn't do anything, period. I can't see a use for any of these effects that isn't fulfilled by something that we already have. And not to mention, its HP is actually kind of low. Anything else here? This could be an interesting attack, just because it scales really fast, but we have Stormy V in the format, and Stormy V works off a double colorless energy, I believe. Or is it 2 water? It might be 2 water, but this is also stage 2, so like, the comparison really isn't there. We have this Ice Cube, which for 3 water energies allows you to do 160 damage, discard energy, and then the defending Pokemon can attack. This effect can be meh, because if you OHKO something, the secondary effect doesn't matter. And if you don't OHKO them, then they can swap out and just, you know, either re-swap in or just set in a new attacker to KO with. Like for example, in like Lugia, for example, this is a attack card against that, because like, oh, you know, the Lugia or Tyranitar can't attack, and then you just pay the retreat cost and go and attack with something else. And because this has 210 HP, this means you're very vulnerable to like both Tyranitar and Lugia. So it just does not seem that great. There's just no place for this card to succeed. No, that's not good. That's not that great. Seismitoad is... it has an interesting ability, but we've already seen something with Ariados, for example. Ariados says your opponent's V-Star Pokemon need to pay a colorless more, and I just don't think that card's not any play period, and this is on a stage 2, it has to be in the active, so it just does not seem that strong. I don't know if there's anything else with Echo Voice. This Pokemon's Echo Voice does, but yeah. So there's something else that procs this. It's just like, oh, if this happens to stay in the active, you do 220. Probably decently strong in GLC, just because it's disruptive enough to slow other decks down. And then doing 220 for 2 water energy with 170 HP Pokemon seems decently strong, but other than that, you wouldn't be playing this in Standard. And the effect itself has proven that it's too niche to really matter. Especially decks like Gardevoir and Chien-Pao right now, where the energy cost is really easy to beat. This Cryogonal actually has a interesting effect where if you go second and it's your first turn, you can just paralyze the active. So this can stop a deck from just attacking you immediately. But the cases where you could actually use this seem a bit fringe because they evolved the paralysis and cleared. So you're basically like hoping to hit against like an opposing Chien-Pao. You just like paralyze them, they're just not going to switch out. Which is fair because their arena is probably stressed to find rare candy or find another piece that they can't just use switch there. But it seems like a really fringe card when everything is evolving. Like Gardevoir has to evolve. Lost Box runs so many switch cards anyways that they're not really hampered by this type of effect. And the type of deck that we've seen historically gets screwed over with paralysis is Lugia. And if this is on your second turn going first, that means they haven't evolved yet, which means they could just evolve to clear the effect. Not to mention the hoops that you have to go through to get this out and then retreat it, and then it's just an empty board slot. So yeah, doesn't seem that great. We have a new Palafin, which does 30 plus 30, does something on the bench, and then it does 210 damage for 2 water energy. Really bumping up, similar to the Seismitoad that we saw earlier. It just has really efficient numbers because 150 and then 2 energy for an attack. And not to mention, you're probably just leading out with like Hisui Basket or Hisui Basculin or little Vulpix anyways, who can just set all these pieces up regardless. So you're already fulfilling that retreat condition just by the nature of your deck, having these free set up attackers in them. So this is probably going to be a good card. It's something very aggressive. That said, you'll definitely want to run like other cards that help you swap out, because once this is deactive, you don't really want to pay that 2 retreat to get out. I also don't know like what type of deck this goes into because 2 water energy is like a weird condition. I don't know. This probably finds a home somewhere in some aggressive version, or maybe not. Maybe the attackers in water are just so fucking good that you don't need a 210 attack damage for 2 energy. I have not seen this card yet, but it doesn't seem that great. This Tyranitar is probably the best attacking EX we've gotten out of this whole set. Because for 2 energy you can do 250 damage, which means with the choice belt you can OHKO a well, you're already in Palkia V-Star for weakness, but you can OHKO an Arceus V-Star and a Giratina V-Star, and possibly like a Regidrago if that happens to come up. But TLDR is that most of the V-Stars are in that 280 range, and even then, you'll probably be able to OHKO some of the baby EX as well, such as Chien-Pao. So this attack seems just pretty fitting. And then for 1 energy, you can do 120 damage and discard top 2 cards of your deck. If you are playing against Lost Box, for example, you can tap this with Cheryl in order to fully heal this, and then just do another 120 damage attack. That said, this isn't entirely unique or anything that we're missing from the game. We have attackers that can do this pretty efficiently and pretty well already. That this is not a unique niche. I'd say if you wanted something with a similar curve, you'd probably be looking like Skeletors, because Skeletors could also make use of like those anti-Lost Box tools while also having an attack that like directly clears damage off of everything. So it just does not seem like it's well fit for the current metagame that we have, which is like infinite scaling damage and quick attackers. This just seems like it's not quick enough, requires too much work, and it doesn't OHKO, because like at least in Gardevoir EX, when you set up your EX with a rare candy, it's gonna go for the rest of the game, whereas in this deck you have to constantly reset them up. It's probably one of the reasons like Meowscarada has not seen a lot of success, because after you lose a Meowscarada, you have to go through the hoops of setting up another one, or try to set a second one up in general. We have this Electros here, which says switch in one of your opponent's bench Pokemon to the active spot, and it does 60, and then you can flip a coin and paralyze it. So that's actually a lot of text, and that's like a really fucked up attack if you think about it, because it says this can pull something up of your choice and then lock it in there, and then paralyze it. So that's really cool. If you're happen against something like a bench barrier, like a Mew or a Manaphy, then you can just bring it up and kill it. And then you also have the chance of paralyze it. Um, that said, I don't think this is too good, but it is also worth noting that I believe electric. Yeah, hold on, let me look this up because I want to confirm. Oh yeah, because we just got this a Crown Zenith, I believe. So you evolve this and you can paralyze them, and then you can evolve it to the other dude who also could do these paralyzed things. So like maybe if you're looking for like a fun rogue deck, it could possibly work. I feel like there's a lot of pieces that actually make that happen. But the second attack is not that great either, so who knows. With this new Thunderous that has bench barrier, but only when this is in the active. And then for 140 damage, you also do 90 damage to yourself. So better hope for that protection cube reprint, or else you are probably not going too far with this. I do like that this is an interesting take on bench barrier. I don't know if this has been done before. I can't name a card off the top of my head that is like this. It's just not that great. You don't really want this in the active, especially with 2 retreat cost. If it is 1, maybe it'd be more passable in the future once Manaphy rotates out. We don't get a replacement for this. But 2 energy to retreat and to basically kill yourself does not seem that great. Toxicity, which allows you to use a lightning colorless energy to do 50 plus 30 for each different type on your bench. So this goes back into like that Sylveon playstyle. So just say you have 3 non-lightning Pokemon, and then you have the Scavillain and the Hoopa. That's 4 plus 3, so 7. 7 times 3, 210 plus 50. So you get a maximum of 206 damage with this, which does not seem that great on something that requires like so much work to set up. So I'm just gonna go ahead and pass on that one. This Palmot EX does not seem that bad, simply because the other Palmot that we've seen is a pretty decent attacker. In fact, all the Palmots so far have felt relatively decent, because we have this one, which is 160 snipe, and this one auto charges energy is 230. So you can stretch these together with like Dynamiters or Electrogens or Raihan, some tool like that, and that is pretty solid. And now you have a 2 prizer sniping option here. Discards 2 energy off of this, and there's 220 to one of their Pokemon. It's got a lot of HP too, so it's likely to live. Honestly, it does not seem that bad. Also helps that it seems to have free retreat, which is a good thing in my book. Probably a fun deck, but once again, this is something entirely new that we were missing from the game. We have a pretty... Do we have a huge sizable snipe like this? I guess Regidrago and Garchomp sort of counts, but that's also limited. I think the attack is interesting, but it's not good enough to like merit your place in the metagame. It's not flexible enough, having a bunch of stage 2s. It's sort of like the Meowscarada problem, where Meowscarada is hypothetically really good, it can channel this shit, but the unfortunate part is having to string together all those Meowscaradas in order to keep it going, and it just becomes too slow. Here it's a similar sort of problem, where yeah, hypothetically, like your damage output is fucking insane, and the attackers you have at your disposal between the EX, between this dude, and the Electrogenesis seem pretty nice, but you just don't have the overall tools to like clear. But I'd like to see someone give this deck a try. Is that 3 Tadbulbs? That's insane. And then 2 Garbage Bellbolts. Sick. This one's like maybe usable, but the other one has like a paralysis theme where you discard 2 energies off of it and then paralyzes the opponent. This doesn't seem that great. This is for budget people who don't want to play the budget deck. Cleffa, we've already seen this before, but what made it good before was the fact that it usually came with the upside of your opponent could not fucking get through it. With the original one, I believe like your opponent had a coin flip on every attack because of the baby rule, and then it was essentially the same thing where in Heart Gold Soul Silver you had a coin flip at the start of the turn, and if you hit heads you would wake up, but if you hit tails, you'd still be asleep, but they couldn't attack you if they were asleep, so a similar fucking gimmick here. I just don't think that this effect is really good. We have others like this, but most of the time you'd rather just be doing something more aggressive. There's the argument that you could be doing this on your first turn of the game, or first turn of the game going second, but I feel like we just have a lot of other things that you can possibly be doing. Like, maybe this is okay, but I don't want to give Lost Box any ideas about echoing Horde up a 30 HP Pokemon. We have this Clefairy. This is the one that we're worried about. But we do have a Clefable EX. And we do have the... I'll just bring up the Clefairies that I'm talking about since we are on the topic. This one synergizes pretty well with the Moonwatching Clefairy. So you get the move Psychics from your deck on the other Clefairies, and then you do 20x for each Psychic energy in play. And this one gives you a free retreat cost, so instead of playing like an extra switch every turn, or paying the 1 energy to retreat, I believe, 2, my bad, to retreat a ramp, you can now retreat for free, which actually helps a lot. And then this also gives you like energy control, so you can like keep all your Psychics in check. Perhaps you just have a lot on one and you will like spread it out to something else or charge up another attacker. The second attack is pretty good at that. Also just gives the single prize deck that was previously pretty weak to Sableye due to having 60 HP, just another body that can sponge up hits. So it seems like it'll probably be pretty decent. This and the Clefable for 151 that allows you to take extra prize cards seem like legitimately probably some of the best cards. So this is like, currently this is probably my number 1 card in the set. With a Togekiss that allows you to draw to 8 cards in your hand, which is a lot. We've had a similar card already in the game like this, like a Hisuian Samurott. That's discard 1 and draw 3, but we haven't really seen that played too much. And people are even contemplative about playing Glade in a deck that, already has an insane draw engine. And it's sort of like why wouldn't she use this, right? Well, the simple answer is that most of the time, like, Gardevoir decks just don't need the Glade. So I can't see a possible rationale where you would need to play an entirely separate line that draw to 8. Maybe a good GLC card, sure, but I just currently don't see a place for this Togekiss. We do have a pretty good Eevee in the format right now. Where is it? Oh yeah. So once you're sure, when you play Pokemon, we can evolve one of your other EVs. You may search your deck for a card that evolves this. So basically, when your EV, one of your EVs evolves, all your EVs evolve. And so we've been looking for possible evolutions to actually play, and this one's not the worst because you can do 30 and then plus 10 for each. So you basically just double up the damage that they have and sprinkle in a little bit extra just in case. But this does not seem that great on its own. I would hope that the EV deck is like entirely able to sustain itself, but this just doesn't scream like super good to me. For context, we have a Farfetch in the game. For a double turbo energy, it does the same exact thing as Psychic Assault, and that, not to my knowledge, has ever seen play, and it's a pretty similar effect, so I can't see where you would want to play this. Let's see, more cards. Oh, we have Lunatone and Solrock. So the Solrock is called for family, search your deck for 2 basics, put them on the bench. It's decent. It's not something that we're like clamoring to put into all our decks, but when you're considering the other Lunatone, it's a pretty good attack to have, just strapped on. And for Lunatone, it just says you get the ignore themes in play. So if you're a deck that's really reliant on special energy or really needs your rule box down, you can in fact play Lunatone and Solrock to disable Path of the Peak or Temple Sinnoh. Another thing you could do is also play a deck that relies on having abilities out, but wants to Path of the Peak the opponent. So you can set these two up and they ignore Path of the Peak on your side. It seems like a actually really decent effect, and it could have a place in the future. I just am unsure on where you would put this now. And then it gets a little sketchier in the future because there's a possibility that you just don't need an effect like this. I know there's a stadium that's maybe coming out in this set. I can't remember. It's like, oh, it's a counter loss box. It like forces attacks that cost a colorless more, and this technically gets around that. But when Path and Peak rotates out of the format, that's really the biggest one that's handicapping decks right now. And then Tempo Citadel second, but I don't know. It just seems like a weird card to fit in. It could have a place, but it could not. It's at least a very interesting effect that I think will be maintained on people's radars until it rotates out. We have a Claydol, which does Super Fade, and then it kills itself. I was looking for ways to possibly make this live in standard format, and I gotta be real, I don't think there's a single card that allows us to live its own attack. But if you happen to have like a big charm in the format, or just something like that, then maybe this is an interesting effect. But currently I don't think this is more effective than Raticate in like this Clodsire type decks, because you're giving up a prize and then setting something up that probably gives up another prize, even if this does it technically for in a more efficient way for 1 energy. It is Fall Crystal searchable. Yeah, I just don't think this is that great of a card. We have this Vespiquen EX, which allows you to recover 6 HP more in your Pokemon. Huge game changer. Never had an effect like this before. But the real reason you'd probably be looking at this is for the second attack, which for 3 grass energies allows you to do 200 and then put 3 damage counters on each of your bench Pokemon, on each of the opponent's bench Pokemon that has 8 damage on it. Notably, it says put 3 damage counters on it as opposed to do 30 damage to all of them, because this does bypass Manaphy, for example. And this effect could be okay. This attack just seems like it has a lot of work going on, because I don't know how you're going to successfully ramp all these energies on. There's support in the set that can help with that, but seems rather, what's the word? It seems rather unreliable to straighten it together so consistently. Gardenia's Vitality, I think is called. One of those that draw to ramp up the G-Grass energy from your hand onto one of your bench Pokemon. I'm actually going to look that up, because I'm not even sure if it has to be grass locked or not. No, you can attach it to anything. Gardenia's bigger, there you go. So, that seems unreliable. And then, you also gotta worry about getting the damage out there. And we do have Hawlucha. Hawlucha is pretty efficient, but Hawlucha can only work so many times. You can maybe use a Cherub to attach to Kobe, but Kobe, if this is the only Kobe we have, is pretty susceptible at 50 HP. So it seems a little bit sketchy. But I will give this deck a little bit of credit, because similar to other EXs that we've seen so far, there's actually another decent Vespiquen here that just does 124 Shuffling Day and Kobe, which is honestly not that bad. I talked about this before, but that's pretty efficient damage output. But this just seems really, really hard to get all the pieces working together. You possibly can fuck up Blossom, possibly. At the same time, just seems a little sketchy. I would not be surprised if this card does not see any play whatsoever. There you go. That's a good way of putting it. Poltergeist, no, doesn't seem that great. More dogs. Struggle to death. I see. Well, there's your Psychic Attacker with Reversal Energy in Zorobox, in case you need another one. But it's very, very specific. And then Houndstone EX, which, yes, it has Lesser Specs. So it has a pretty similar attack to the other Houndstones that we've seen, and the Grievers. So just to pull those guys up. I think they are literally the same attack, just with a different scaling. Yeah, so it's 80 and then 10 more. And then Grievard. Yeah, and then this one is the same attack, where it's 1 Psychic and then 10 times, so... fitting conclusion for this line. Unfortunately, 3 Psychic Energy is a lot, and it doesn't seem that great, though this is probably a funny meme deck. Oh, there's a Bonsai here. You do 10 damage and confuse them for free. Wow, that's crazy. Similar issue that I have to the Cleffa, and that this one does even more nothing, but it technically gets you damage. And you're relying on a Confusion Coin retreat out, knock this out. It just doesn't seem that great. I'm gonna leave it at that. We have this Stun Disc here, which if it has a tool attached to it, and then it gets knocked out, right? No, if it takes damage, you put 5 on the active, and then you block them in with the first attack does 30. Honestly, probably not that bad of a GLC card, because you can maybe attach like a Cape of Toughness, or if you're like a real shitter, you could do like Bursty Bloom or Rocky Helmet and make them take like 7 to 12 damage or something like that, and then you also lock them in. This probably gives you some time in the early game to set up your other dudes, like set up your Machamp, your Colossal, something bigger like that. So I actually kind of like this Stuff Disc. It just seems pretty neat. What else do we have here? Cloth? I know this Cloth isn't that great. If this Pokemon was in the active, discard energy from the attacking Pokemon. Woo, we get to Crushing Hammer them after they've done damage, and then you get the Coin Flip for 180. I'm sorry, Cloth, but you're just not that great. We have some limits, but these ones aren't too notable because we have the Ascension limit already. And we have Glamour EX, probably the most notable card out of the set. At least that's immediately impactful. And when this is in the active, it locks your opponent 3 bench Pokemon. So it basically auto-Averies if you don't have Path to Peak in play. And then second attack, doesn't do a whole lot of damage, but it does 140 and they're now poisoned. I just have to double check now, but I'm pretty sure. I'm losing my mind here trying to type names this late at night. Okay, so Gardevoir does have resistance, which does suck, but it's probably fine. With Poisonous Gem, you do 140. I know Zacian doesn't resist this because Zacian's treated as Fairy instead. The Fairy doesn't normally resist stuff. So you can... What can you do with this? I don't know, it just seems like efficient damage. Against most Saiyans in the format, you're going to 2-hit KO them, and then you're also going to limit their bench size. You can use it in tandem with like Escape Rope or Boss that really limit their options, because they're not allowed to have a whole lot of stuff in play already. I know Lost Box probably doesn't like this effect either, especially when you ascend to this very early on, because they really need like Conveys in play. Like they probably want 3 Conveys in play, and they usually have like a Cramorant or a Manaphy or something else. Probably not a Manaphy in this case, but like a Cramorant, and this really locks them out of having a wide selection of plays to make. So I could see this being incredibly impactful as its own deck. One thing that I was very upset about when it came to Team Lou is Team Lou's actual attack cost instead of speed, but this one like doesn't need anything to get going, and you're immediately checking out 150 to 160 damage each turn. If the poison rolls over, they have it swapped out, and you could stack that up a little bit more with Radius Sneasler to make it to, I guess it'd be doing 170 to 100 or 170 to 200 damage each turn. So you have a pretty big range of damage that you can do there. You probably want to be able to overcome that hurdle to Oko Champao, for example. You don't need to worry too much about Zacian because if Zacian's HP is low, can't do anything. But you probably want to run like maybe like a Spongy Gloves or a Defiant Man, something like that in order to KO Champao. But yeah, this effect just seems really good. And on top of that, we have a Glimmet with Ascension here, which is really good. Allows you to get it set up very quickly. And then we have, I believe it's 2 M's. Yeah, we have a Glamora, which you have to flip the coin. Then if you hit heads, it'll take any damage with a decent attack of its own that allows you to pick off other people. So you're just playing this like very disruptive prize denial type of game that also limits their ability to set up. Like Loki just seems really, really good to me. On this entirely opposite side of the spectrum, we have Koraidon, which does not seem that great, and I'm not going to elaborate on that. We have the big bad of the set, Charizard EX. So when you evolve into this, you get to search for 3 basic fire energies. So I'm seeing people get a little bit excited for this. It is a little bit neat because we do have another Charizard coming out in the future. I don't want to look at that right now, but currently we also have Pokemon Go which applies double energies. So if you happen to have this setup and Pokemon Go Charizard, you have a total of 6 new energies on the field. The only issue this is like, it's similar to the Meowscarada problem, where setting up so many stage 2s puts so much stress on your game plan. Like, Gardevoir only gets away with it because they're going to Curlies in advance, and those Curlies are actively doing something. Like, Charmeleon ain't gonna be doing shit. Chiampao gets away with it because they only need 1 or 2 Excalibur set up every game. Unless they get constantly bossed up, but you know, that's an entirely separate problem. But when it comes to Charizard, your main attacker relies on having all these stage 2s up, and so if you lose your ability to chain those together, it becomes tough. Not to mention that this is an entirely unique effect. How is this better than, for example, Lugia V-Star, who can set Archeops immediately? You have Tyranitar, who can do basically as much damage as this guy, or at least enough damage to matter to everything. Lugia hits 220 and hits the benchmark, so I really just am not a huge fan of this card. Doesn't do anything unique or stand out for the crowd, but it will be probably a fun deck. I will admit that. Some Clawsires here that don't look like they do too much. If your opponent is poisoned, does 200. I guess I can like sort of work with the other Clodsire. They have pretty similar attack costs because Clodsire EX has 1 dark and 2 colorless for like, I can't remember how much damage it does. Let's see, Clodsire. Yeah, it does 200 damage, and if you have a stay play, you can poison them. So that condition is basically already fulfilled. This is probably a neat, like, cute rogue deck that you could use with Clodsire. So Clodsire, let's go. We already saw the Espeon, so now we got Umbreon here, and this just does not seem that great in general. Also, give me 1 second. Apologize about that, but yeah, this just seems even worse, where at least with the Espeon, I can make up a situation where you can use that. Here, this does not seem that great at all. End statement. You have this new Houndour, which has a very cool attack actually. For each bench Houndour, you get the Surge of Dark Energy and attach it. So if you have, for example, like 3 bench Houndour, you get the Surge out for 3 energies, and then your payoff is whatever the fuck this Pokemon is. It's not that great, which is so unfortunate because like this attack is really, really cool, and then this is just not. We have an Absol here with the ability that Future Sight. Look at the top 3 players, or top 3 cards of the player's deck, so that they can immediately draw all of them and have it not matter anyways. And then if your opponent has 3 or 4 cards in their hand, you get to do 220 damage. But it seems incredibly hard to do. We have an Arbok EX that's coming out in the set. After this in 151, I can lower the opponent's hand size. But, you know, you want to be constantly attacking with that so they have no cards, period. You don't really want to swap over to Absol for possibly more damage. It might even be the same amount of damage, but yeah. This Darkrai doesn't seem that great. Maybe there's a GLC thing going on here, but I'm not too sure. Melimar's not that great. Salazzle's bad. Scizor can be a decent tech card. Technically, if you're running Luminous Energy in your Zoroark deck, you could use this as a steel attacker because it is able to, you know, hit for that 1 steel energy, and it's 50 for each ability that your opponent has in play, which is also, once again, a pretty likely situation. Not sure how great that is, but at least it's a consideration. We have this, which removes a special energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. I cannot think of a situation where you would want to play this, unless if you're trying to like control the opponent. But if you're trying to do that, we have Celebrations Evoltal. That card still probably could see play if we were in a special energy heavy format, which we aren't. It's basically like Mew is left, and Lugia, and this is definitely not impacting Lugia enough. Where Celebrations Evoltal could discard 3, which is very, very impactful actually. Neither of these seem that great. Wow. For 1 Metal Energy, I get to do 60? That's crazy. We have Poniard, and we have a new Bisharp. This Bisharp doesn't seem good, but it is worth noting we still have this Bisharp, one of these, this one. It's standard, which does damage for each of your damaged Poniards. So it's a good bridge into what could be King Gambit And unfortunately, I don't think Key Gambit's that great because for one metal energy, you get to kill them, but only if they have more damage counters on them. We already saw how difficult it was for Hisui Typhlosion V-Star to set that up. I can only imagine for King Gambit. So the biggest place I see this is like maybe some top end for. Okay, now here's what you do. You play the Gate Job Bog deck with Bisharps, right, and the Poniards, and then you go to this, ready Alakazam, and move 20 damage from one of your Pokemon, or from one of the opponent's Pokemon that took Gate Job Bog damage to the other one that took it, and then you kill them. There you go. That's your value. Maybe, like, I don't know. This seems a bit of a stretch, but most people have not tried to play this like Bisharp deck in a while. So, I mean, maybe there's merit, but I'm not too sure if it's worth including all of that. We have a big man, Metal here. You get that search deck for 2 basic metal energies attached to them. When you're a stage 1, 300 HP Pokemon, you maybe have the excuse that doing nothing on your turn 2 is acceptable. And then you do 90 plus 30 for each metal energy attached to this Pokemon, which I think still falls short to Dialga V-Star, because I think Dialga scales at... I'm just going to look it up so I don't look like an idiot. I want to say it has like a base damage, and then... yeah, it's 40 plus 40. So it starts out at... It just starts out at 40. And so you're at 90. So how soon would you be able to catch up? What's divisible? It's doing math is so hard. Okay, so you would need 6 energies on Dialga to do 240. Where here, you would need 90, 120, 50, 180, 210. Okay, so I think Dialga catches up at the 7 energy mark, and where it's able to do 280, while Melmetal would only be able to do 270. Which isn't too relevant, to be honest. But the biggest thing, of course, is that Dialga has the ability to fucking take a free turn. So probably not all that worth it, unfortunately. As much as I like this dude, he just seems outclassed by a Dialga V-Star who just has a little bit more going for him. Even the Dialga V, for example, has the ability to just attach to metal energies. From the discard, to be fair, but yeah, it goes off at least turn 1, so you can spare your time. Revim EX allows you to attach 4 tool cards, and then you do 170 to take 30 less damage. It seems like a weird combination of stuff going on here, because we're considering the other River Room that we have available to us, which allows us to discard energy and draw up to 6 cards. It just does not seem like the type of combination that you're looking for. I'm sure this could be like fun, but I don't expect it to be meta breaking unless if we have like a way to discard a lot of tools. But even then, we've seen an archetype like this before with Holotrovi, and it did not like impress us too much. And this doesn't even get access to Game of Toughness. I don't know what tool you're trying to attach to this guy. At least Holotrovi could do this like a Forest Seal Stone and then 3 Bravely Charms. Like, I don't know. I'm a Dragonite EX. Flip a coin. If you hit heads, you do 280. Cool. Alternative, which uses the Sleepy Solemn, which can allow you to put your opponent to sleep. And then have to flip 2 coins instead of 1. This just sounds really fucking annoying. Like, Regidrago could maybe use this. We're also, like, getting a high density of actually decent Altarias. So we have the Magical Echo, which isn't that great right now. This rotated out, but we also have Tempting 2 still, which allows you to put support on top of your deck. The Magical Echo, like we said, is maybe usable. And this just seems very annoying, so we're reaching that threshold. I don't think this like makes an Altaria deck happen. If anything, this probably just goes to the Regidrago and like tilts the fuck out of some people on a ladder for a funny YouTube video. But that's about all it gets. And then we have Pidgeot EX, probably the most exciting card for a lot of people in this set because it's a return of an old classic card, which was Pidgeot EX, funny enough. with the same exact. No, it wasn't an EX. It was just a Pidgeot. So if I search it up and scroll all the way down here, quick search. Once your turn, you may choose one card, or any one card in your deck and put it into your hand. It's the same shit here. You just search your deck for a card. I will say, comparatively to back then, you had a different rare candy which allowed you to evolve on your first turn. So there's that. I think that ultimately the game is a lot faster. Back then, sometimes you would just have to dig for a card that got you out of a situation and re-establish your board state, and then find a way to come back from there. We didn't have all these crazy energy acceleration engines that we had before. Well, I mean, some decks did, but most decks didn't. Whereas nowadays, like basically every deck has some form of crazy fucking energy trap, and that really puts a dent in Pidgeot's plans. Maybe it's playable, like possibly in a control deck I could see it having merit, because there's allows you to grab a specific combo card every turn. But in general use, like how it was used before, it does not seem like we're at that point where we could go back to the good old days and quick search each turn. But I will say, this is still one of my favorite cards of all time. Anything else here of note? No. Doesn't seem like it. I'm trying really hard. There's gonna be something. I like this tack where you look at the top 3 cards in your deck. I wish this was like discard any of those cards that you saw and then draw 3, but it's just like, oh, you choose to draw these 3, or you could gamble and draw 3 different ones. There's a lot of fucking Lechogs. Holy shit. Don't know why there's an Arvid here. I know the set list had an extra Arvid, so maybe there's like new Altar or some Altar promo or something like that. Gina, until the other turn, no Pokemon can attack Surge deck for 2 basics and attach them. So this is actually a very strong reason to go second now, which could be really strong. I don't really see where you would use this. Possibly you just play this Gomora to get those like extra energies going. You can play it Team Blue as well, so you don't have to rely entirely on Koraidon, or maybe you still do the Koraidon thing and you just possibly accelerate out 4 energies in a singular turn. I think this card has a lot of uses. I'm just not sure if those uses are ever apparent at the moment. But this could be a scary card, or it just, you know, allows a more bricky deck with a cool ability to shine, because now it doesn't have to worry about its energy engine as much. Letter of Encouragement is fucking insane. Holy shit. This is probably like the best card. I know I've said that quite a few times already, but this is probably the best trainer in the set. It gives you a way to just filter out a lot of great cards from your deck. Chienpao greatly appreciates this. This might put Chienpao more on the radar, especially when it is arena searchable, and by proxy it means it's Limiteon searchable, which means it's Ultra Ball searchable. You just have a lot of ways of being able to fish out this specific card, which grabs you 3 energies from your deck and gets you started like immediately. Because after you use one of these, you don't need to use it again, at least in Chienpao's sake. Afterwards, you can just rely on superior energy retrievals, so you only need to run one of these. I'm trying to think of what other deck would really appreciate having an effect like this, but I don't think there's so many other decks that really want a lot of energies in their hand. Perhaps if you're going through that Chero Toadstool EX route, you would appreciate a card like this, which allows you to fetch out a shit ton of your energies, but at the moment, does not seem super important. Okay, so Ortega allows you to rip a card out of their hand. Maybe good, maybe not. Maybe your opponent used Ultra Ball and then grab the card that they really need for the next turn, or Ortega can be used to get rid of it. Maybe it's a control card, but it's such a tiny effect. But I can still see this like eventually popping up in some fucking Sander list. Control cap, if this is deactive, this shit can't be discarded. So if you're really afraid of Tyranitar V in your Lost Box deck, ripping away 2 port cards of Cragolage, you can use this to get around them. It really does not seem all that important. Pokemon League Headquarters, aka apparently the Lhasa Killer. Doesn't Lhasa just play like a shit ton of stadiums and then also a shit ton of Lost Vacuums? I mean, currently, in my opinion, I think you should be playing like maybe 2 or 3 stadiums and then like 2 or 3 Lost Vacuums. So you have quite a few outs to this. even then, like, do people not know, like, what Cranbert does? Because I'm pretty sure Cranbert just says, you're gonna attack all energy in this Pokemon's energy cost. So, like, what is the deal here, right? I sincerely don't get it. Perhaps Cranbert still needs energy to attack, but even in that case, is that really that bad? It might fuck up the way that you, like, retreat out of a situation, which can be impactful, but I don't know, this just seems so weird. Even in the late game, right? You can maybe just, like, if this really becomes a problem, you check in an energy recycler, and instead you have to attach 2 energies to your same line to attack, like, oh no. The worst that this does is, like, affect Dragon IV or Radiant Greninja in most common cases, but I don't know, just doesn't seem that strong. Poppy has a cool effect. I really like this type of effect in the game. I think you can use it to a very what's it called, strong effect. I just don't know where you would use this per se. It'd have to be something that, like, collects energies onto itself. Perhaps you could use this with a magma basin to, like, move your energies around. But I'm trying to think of, like, an exact situation you would want to use this, but nothing is coming to my head right now. But it's a cool card. I will try to find a place to use this in the future. Right, draw 3 and then you swap to your bench. You escape from your opponent's active out. Cool. Don't know why we're getting another reprint of this. Townstar, you may search your card for a tool card. I think people are overhyping this one as well because, like, it grabs you for a Seal Stone. But, like, if you're really reliant on Forest Seal Stone, I don't know why I'm searching in Darwin. Shop. What? Oh, it was called Store, wasn't it? But, like, if you're really, really desperate to find your Forest Seal Stone, I have a great card for you. His name is Arvin, and Arvin is so cracked. I've been saying that for a while. I don't think there's too many amazing decks that you can use an Arvin in, but, like, come on, Arvin's so good. I don't know why you'd play a Stadium on this. Maybe it's okay in Gardevoir as a Stadium bump that also grabs you a Forest Seal Stone that you can use through Zacian, but that's maybe okay. But that's, like, about as close as I'm gonna give it to you. Vengeful Punch. If a Pokemon's knocked out, you may put 4 damage counters on that. And this is the support card for King Gambit, so sure, why not, right? But I don't know, it doesn't seem that strong. Maybe you play it in the King Gambit deck, I'm not sure. You can Arvin out like a VIP pass and then grab this, and then they're like, haha, I'll knock this out, and then you rare candy your King Gambit and say, fool, I execute for lethal. But yeah, that's the entire set. Like, gotta be real, there's so little impactful things here. Pidgeot should be the most impactful card here, but it's not. I'm probably gonna give it to Glamora. If anything makes waves, this card's probably gonna be fucking annoying, tilting the fuck out of people. They're gonna have to flip coins on the baby Glamora. This little guy is just holding off everyone's ability to set up. Second best card is not Gita, Letter of Encouragement. This card's fucking stupid. Third best card, Gita. Fourth best card, Clefable. That's the whole set. I cannot tell you another single relevant card in this entire set off the top of my head, despite just reviewing this whole set. Oh, fifth best card, Palmot, because it's funny. Okay, that's a set review. The set kind of blows. I don't think, yeah, this is from just the Basil's website, so that should, like, be everything. And we're gonna got a leak of what the set was gonna look like. So I'll leave you guys with that. If you guys enjoyed this review or any of the insight I've given here, feel free to comment, like, subscribe, share, I don't know, do the YouTube things that YouTubers will want you to do.